Hello, my name is Hashim. You are
Yatsik.
Yatsik, yeah. So, we just want to have a discussion with regards to your faith, my faith, maybe. If you got any questions about Islam, you're more than welcome to ask. And about Christianity, if I ask you a few questions, would that be okay with you?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So first, I do understand there are many types of Christians out there.
Yes.
What kind of Christian would you consider yourself to be?
I follow words of Jesus.
Okay, that's what they all claim.
I don't know who's they.
So when I say they, I mean the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Protestants, the Catholics, the Eastern Orthodox,
Okay, so
all of them, they all claim to follow Jesus.
I didn't say I follow Jesus. I say I follow words of Jesus.
So you follow the words of Jesus. And what does that mean?
It means that when I read words of Jesus,
Right.
I feel it to be true. No one compelled me to read it. No one asked me to do it.
Okay.
It was an act of freedom. And it's a free will that allowed me to see that the words of Jesus are true.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned some denominations, so I want to clarify from the very beginning that you probably know historically that some words of Jesus were not included in the Bible. Proof that in the Quran, there are passages of Jesus that are not in the Bible, and also of course the writings discovered.
Sorry, what about the Quran?
The passages of Jesus which you cannot find in the Quran.
Oh yeah, there are passages in the Quran which you don't find
in the Bible.
In the Bible about Jesus.
Yes.
Okay. Like him talking in the cradle, for example.
So this already tells you there are other writings about Jesus which were not included in the present form of the scripture which you call the Bible, which people call the Bible.
Yeah.
And I do follow the words of Jesus which are also not included in the Bible. So when you're going to ask me about it, you have to prepare yourself to hear those words as well.
Okay, so when you say the words about Jesus which are not in the Bible, what are you alluding to?
Gospel of St. James.
Okay, so these are the apocryphal Gospels which are not included in the
Gnostic, yes.
Gnostic, not included in the canon. Okay.
Yes. St. Thomas, Gospel of St. Thomas.
Right. Interesting. I haven't met many Christians who would actually admit that. So you believe these are the true sayings of about Jesus?
If a disciple of Christ says these are the words of Jesus, it doesn't mean I blindly will listen. However, when I hear the truth in what's spoken,
right,
I can discern through my own senses whether what I'm reading is true or not.
Okay, so you use your own, your own intellect to guide you whether it's true or not. Could you be mistaken in that?
Of course I could be mistaken.
Right.
Anyone can be mistaken, just like you could be mistaken about understanding of Quran.
Yeah, but the Quran is not something that I wrote or something that I'm claiming that it was revealed to me. Okay, so I'm not judging.
Claim I wrote it.
Yeah, I'm not judging based on the fact that just because I'm reading the Quran, yes, or I'm reading something outside the Quran, that something outside the Quran is now based on my understanding, my rationality, are the words of Allah. I hold the words of Allah to be only in the Quran. Yes, and obviously there's few exceptions like the Hadith Qudsi and so on. But the main thing is when you say the book is from God, when you say the revelation is from God, yes, then you shouldn't doubt that and pick and choose from that which bits are from God, which bits are not from God.
It's interesting you say that because
Yeah.
the parts of the Bible the Islamic faith does not recognize.
Yeah.
And so you have pick and choosing in a sense.
No, we don't. I'll tell you how we identify The
But
truth.
let me that wasn't my point, really.
Okay, what's your point?
My point was that probably it's good to consider that the Bible in present form, as you know, was compiled by the act of man, not
Yes.
act of God.
Yeah, the canonization.
Yes.
Do you know when it happened?
It happened around the 4th century AD.
Yeah,
and
maybe the 5th century, as far as that.
So this has to be considered, that the specific, the Christian aspect, that there was interference of will of man, to which writing should be included or not, has to be considered very carefully.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I agree.
Other books.
Yeah, it's absolutely a point that we have actually delved into a lot of times here at Speaker's Corner. So, if I were to ask you that if it's mainly, like you said, it's mainly based on your own rationality to identify what is the right and what is not right, or what is from God and what is not from God, and you also admitted that you can make mistakes. So using your own criteria, which is not foolproof, you could be mistaken in that. But you see, when you have a book like the Quran, we don't say that the Quran has mistakes in it, like the way you admit there are mistakes in the Bible. You see, so there's already a clear distinction in what you consider to be the revelation from God and what we consider to be revelation from God. Because in Islam, we believe that the Quran is complete, the Quran is without mistakes, and the Quran is a revelation from Allah directly in His original language to His messenger, the last messenger, and as the last message to mankind from God Almighty.
Now,
as a revelation.
I understand what you're saying. When you speak of completion, you see, one of the reasons why it would take some time for you to comprehend my point is that, in fact, the larger view of Christianity is not about the completion, because actually the concepts in Christianity which are omitted in the Bible are the most fundamental concepts which Islam does not recognize, because it has no access to recognition of specific points. Now, if I ask you right now if you know what the fourth thought is, can you...
Sorry, what the...
Fourth thought.
Fourth thought about what?
Fourth thought. Fourth thought itself. Do you know the concept of the fourth thought means?
Elaborate.
Elaborate. Fourth thought is the concept of...
Are you talking about predestination?
Predestination is... you're getting there. However, the
foreknowledge of God.
Foreknowledge.
Foreknowledge of God. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. But you know, you said something fundamental. Knowledge or fundamental. To me, the most fundamental thing is first to recognize the true God. Everything else comes secondary. You know, if you do not recognize the true God, this true God who sent you the revelation, who sent His messengers the revelation, then everything else is secondary. You see? So I would start with that premise rather than going to qadar or predestination or something like that, which comes later on. You need to first identify who the true God is.
When you speak like this,
yeah,
you just showed me actually that you're acting out of what you can call an afterthought, meaning you recognize what's in front of you, and then you make a choice whether you want to believe it.
Sorry, is this some people are demonstrating?
When you want to believe it or not. So there's a fixed book in front of you, and you made...
Is it okay we go somewhere quieter, yeah? Sorry. Islam, كيف حالك؟ Sorry about that. This is Speaker's Corner, you know, anything can happen here. So we find destruction. I mean, destruction finds us normally. Okay, carry on, yeah.
So
just a bit closer. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So yeah, you were saying the fundamental. I asked you about the fundamental in belief, you know, because
so you see,
yeah.
So the front of the Quran is already a fixed book. A Christian, my understanding.
So, Zishan, this is brother. Sorry,
Yatsik.
Yatsik. Yeah.
Yatsik.
Hashim. Carry on. Yeah.
So the concept within Christianity is actually that one cannot experience Christianity unless it experiences actually the very forethought itself, which is Christ. Now, when of course I understand people over here have no comprehension really of what forethought is. This is the reason why Jesus said that he has chosen his people. And like in Islam, anyone can become a Muslim. Some words even in the Bible which says very few will enter kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
And you see, Christ has chosen his people, and that happens through an act of forethought because it's an entity.
But Christ didn't choose the people. Christ said that my Father has given them to me. So he didn't choose. It was the Father's forethought, or Father's what do you say? Predestined.
Well, yeah.
They predestined them. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes,
So it wasn't Christ.
Yes. Christ, while it came to earth for the people who live in let's say in the presence. What you're saying is correct.
Yeah.
But you're speaking from, let's say, from the upper realm looking downwards. What I was trying to more like refer to people on earth. The people who, for example, experience Christ inwardly in the heart. First they experience in the heart, and only then they can find a way towards what Christ really meant. If somebody wants to get a book and put a knowledge to his head or her head, that's an act of afterthought, which is act of will and has to be recognized, but that doesn't represent the act of what actually pure Christianity is.
Yeah. You know what you mentioned? The thoughts, your ideas. Is that from inside the Bible or is it from outside the Bible?
But again, I'm speaking actually from Gnostic writings.
Yeah.
Where
some other writings. Sorry.
Where the writings of origins of Christ are clearly represented, and that it's a being that has incarnated into the world. But we're speaking of Christ. Now, the mystery of the incarnation of Christ into a man's body, I understand fully that in Islam, I'm aware that Islam doesn't recognize an immaculate conception, that it was a divine.
Sorry, they do or they don't?
Islam, they do.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So you do recognize this divine act.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you haven't answered my question, Itzhak. I'm asking you, the information that you're referring to, all that is from some source, right? It is not something that you're saying as an afterthought or something.
Yes.
And if you're going to say I'm using afterthought, then you're no different, because you see your information comes from some source as well, just like my information comes from the Quran and the Hadith. You see? So based on what you said, that when you identify as your fundamental of a faith or a religion, yes, it's always pegged to a source.
I recognize liquidity of an intellect. However, don't you think you should ask me a question? Have I experienced a forethought so I can actually relate to the words that I speak afterwards? Which you did not ask me.
The reason I did not ask you that is because what you experience is something which we call anecdotal and subjective. So only you can vouch for that. What I prefer, if you hear me out, what I prefer is the objective truth, which everyone can see and they can measure and they can observe. Yes, be it in a book, be it in a revelation, or be it in some other hadiths, like the narration of the prophets, the sayings of the prophets, like in your case, the Gnostic sources. Yes. What do you experience? Say, for example, today some Hindu comes and tells me, I saw Shiva in my dream. Yes? And from that moment on, my life changed. Would that actually mean for you to go and change your religion now to Hinduism?
That's not the same, because you see, again, that's why I understand that the concept of forethought is very hard to understand. If the Hindu already by nature would recognize Shiva anyway.
Yeah.
Let's say there would be a man living in India whose heart was completely open to a being of Shiva, and Shiva would actually recognize the openness of the heart of that man, because the forethought would, in a sense, direct that particular man to experience Shiva, and Shiva would appear to him. That's the concept of forth that I'm talking about. So it's not about the parameter.
I think you have to define forethought, because I'm finding it hard to understand.
It's not easy subject.
No, it's not easy. I'm trying to understand, what do you mean by forethought? So can you define it, please?
Forethought
Yeah.
is that knowledge, you may say, which is a living knowledge, which is already within oneself. Then it finds itself through confirmation, and not only in this world but also in the spiritual world, and simultaneously.
And
Therefore, there's a spiritual understanding
right.
that it takes place, which one becomes spiritually active.
So you're saying it's some form of a knowledge that you're born with, or you acquire later on?
Born with, again, born with, it depends on what you mean by born.
I mean, since birth.
Perhaps there's some people have potential for
This is
it.
something maybe what we might call fitra.
Yeah.
The natural disposition. So we in Islam, we have this, I don't know if you've heard of the concept of fitra. It's something that every person is born with. So it's a natural disposition. So say for example, when you committed your first crime or your first sin, yes, before that, you in your heart must have realized that what I'm going to do is wrong. Automatically, even though you might not have done it before, but you know that this, you might have heard maybe, that this is wrong. Say for example, stealing. Yes. So maybe when you stole your first cookie, yes, from maybe what your mom must be hiding, from you, you must have realized that is something you're doing wrong. So this is the very basic understanding.
Even scientifically,
This is more
Justin Barrett.
this is not what I'm talking about.
research as
You're talking about more about what you may say a moral structure of a soul.
So more like a moral compass.
Yes. But this is what I'm not talking about.
But are you born with that? Do you believe every person is born with that, the moral compass? Because if I speak to an atheist and an agnostic, their morals might differ completely to that of a religious person.
Well, the moral compass has its own limitations,
Okay.
and therefore it cannot represent the concept of forethought in any sense.
Okay. Sorry, you were saying something about the scientists acknowledging
this natural
disposition. Yeah. Fitra.
Is, fitra there's actually a study by Justin Barrett and Olivera Petrovich. So this is something that even people have backed up through science as well, that a
Interesting,
person is born believing in one God.
Okay. So
nothing-
is that similar to what you're saying?
Not quite again.
Okay.
Because you're speaking about the system of beliefs.
No, it's not belief. It's more of a.
The word belief. When if you observe carefully, there's a for knowledge, and there's a forethought. And one of the things which I understand due to perhaps historical reasons, the Islamic world has not come across largely through those writings, and they're the ancient writings like any other gospels. Therefore, there's one of the confusions and often misunderstandings between Christianity and Islam is because the full picture has not been revealed from one side, where in Islam you may say the picture is quite complete. And the question of a journey, you may say, that let's say a Christian man who has experienced a forethought compels him to understand that his existence is intertwined, you may say, like with the will of Allah in Islam, but also with individual freedom. And when one realizes when the human freedom, one's own freedom, meets the will of God.
Yeah, I think you're talking about what we call qadar. Okay, so qadar, the foreknowledge of Allah or the predestination, in a way, it is obviously with the will of Allah everything happens, but it's still the freedom or the free will that you have. Yes, so it is always within the framework of Allah's will. It cannot happen outside that. So Allah allows you to do something. Yes. So you might act, say for example, if I want to jump over this fence, yes? So with my free will I can jump over the fence, yes? And Allah allows me to do that. But if I wanted to jump over the fence and Allah didn't want me to do that, then somehow or some way, that action would be stopped. So even though I have the free will, yes, it doesn't mean I can do everything.
Yeah.
For example, we all have the free will, yeah? And if I tell you to do, say, fly now, you can't do it because it's something that is beyond you, even though you have complete free will to fly, but you're unable to do that because your attributes doesn't allow you. Yes, you don't, unless you, I don't know, build yourself some plane or something and then fly with that, that's different. So there's always limitations to everything. Yes, but coming back to the scriptures, for me, the scriptures are really important because whatever knowledge or whatever information you have, you draw from that and then you build upon that. Okay? Do you believe in the 10 Commandments?
I recognize 10 Commandments for what it stands for.
Okay.
Even let's say no one will have to tell me not to steal.
Yeah.
I would have to be commanded not to steal.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't need to be a religious person to know stealing is wrong. I mean, you could be an atheist or an agnostic and realize that stealing is wrong. So you're right, yeah. But you see, there's a difference because in life, if we do everything based on our free will, yes, then the world itself will be in chaos. I'll tell you why. Say, for example, I want to use, or somebody wants to use their free will and drive the car as they want. Yes, would they be allowed to? Would there be consequences if they did that? Of course there will be. So that's the reason we have traffic laws. So the traffic laws limit your free will to not to drive over the speed of 30, for example, around here. Okay, so 30 miles an hour is the speed here. If you exceed that, you can be fined, you'll be penalized, and you can even harm someone by doing that. Okay?
You're entering, in a sense, psychoanalysis, which I don't want to go into it, to be honest with you, because just to make a quick subject, I mean, if there will be no traffic laws, you're a reasonable person, you would drive within a reasonable speed limit. Only people who are
But that's subjective, right?
People who are not in mind, that's my point, people who do not really have a concept and sense of reality will pretty much fall into accident.
No, when you said reasonable, that itself is subjective. What is reasonable to you might also be reasonable to the guy driving at 50 miles an hour. Yeah. He's saying, look, it's like a person who drinks alcohol, you know? He says, look, I can control the amount of alcohol I drink without harming anyone, without harming myself. Yes, I have the free will to do it. So I'm going to go to the pub and binge drink as much as I want. Yes? The next person says to him, no, you're not supposed to drink that much because you definitely cannot control it. But the other guy keeps arguing. You see what I mean? So everybody has a subjective understanding of what is right and what is wrong. And that's the reason I'm saying we need some sort of a law, some sort of a framework under which we can operate without causing harm. And to me, the best jurisdiction is from God Almighty. So when, for example, Allah in the Quran says, do not even go near zina. Zina is fornication. What that means is do not even, forget about doing zina, do not even approach it from any angle which will lead you into committing that sin of fornication. Yes? So that can include many things like don't watch pornography, do not indulge in something which is haram, you know, like do not even step into a place where you see things, there's haram going on, you know, like the nightclubs, for example. Yes, haram means forbidden things. And that's the reason I'm coming back to the 10 Commandments is actually a framework where God tells you certain things, even though it might be logical for you not to murder, not to steal, not to be respectful to your neighbors. And the first and the most foremost thing, again in the first commandment, is to worship your Lord, the God who is one. Yes?
Well, you said that. So
yes.
Let me reply if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
It is. You brought the Old Testament, therefore.
It's also in the New, by the way. Jesus repeated the Shema in Mark 12:29. Yeah, please go ahead.
In Old Testament, I said that before. I have not yet received a proper recognition about the words in Old Testament. Book of Isaiah 36 verses 6, when there's a concept, actually a Jewish man here did recognize it, he acknowledged that there's a duality and singularity, which the passage of I, the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, are the first and the last. There's no God besides me. When you hear those words, and it's you who brought the Old Testament, you can see there's a duality there's an entity, the King of Israel, and there is another entity, the Redeemer, the Lord of Hosts. Now, and it is the King of Israel who speaks, the Lord, who says, I'm the first, the last, there's no God besides me.
Yeah.
There's a singularity in the statement, which in fact shows duality in the nature within. Not the external nature, but within. That in the realm of the highest God, with the same realm of singularity, there's a being of we call the Redeemer.
Right.
Okay. So,
And the point of this is...
the point is that in Islam, you just mentioned, you said it, as you know, just a moment ago,
Yeah.
one true God. You emphasize one true God.
Yeah.
So one has to recognize, in my view, that you have right now two choices. One, to say, which I heard from some Muslim people, that the Old Testament has been corrupted, and this is somehow corrupted. Or two, one has to recognize these words to be true. And in fact, there's a Redeemer standing next to the God Most High as a singular entity.
As a singular entity.
Yes.
Okay, so if I understood you correctly, you're talking about the Father and the Son.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't, but is that what you were talking about?
Are you implying it?
I'm asking you.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm asking you the question. You're not going to answer the question.
No, what I'm saying, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, so you're not referring to the Father and the Son.
No.
Okay, so in the Bible, can you tell me which passage you're referring to?
Isaiah 36 verses 6.
Okay, and whom is it talking about?
There's an pronouncement of God the Most High.
Whom is it talking about? God the
Yeah, the Lord, the King of Israel.
God the Father.
Yes.
Okay, so you were talking about the Father.
Yeah.
Carry on. And who is the other entity?
The Redeemer.
Yes. And who is that?
The Lord of Hosts.
Yeah. Who is that? I'm asking. Who is that?
Obviously, we're speaking about spiritual beings. We're not speaking. This is not a puppet theater that the Lord of
I didn't say it was.
Yeah?
I'm just asking you.
It's
Can you?
It's an entity.
Yeah.
Who is called the Lord of Hosts.
Yeah.
Which means that to be Lord of Hosts, meaning He is the one from whom the hosts of the spiritual world and universe derive from. Now,
Who is that?
the Lord of Hosts.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you see, Christians, yes, believe. Well, you know very well, because I understand that you're acquainted with the Bible. When the world was created, the beginning of the book of John.
Yeah. Carry on. I'm listening. Yeah. Yeah. Carry on.
That before the world was created, there was a Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So, in a Christian understanding, and everything was created through it, and nothing was created without it.
Who is the Lord of Hosts, according to
The
you?
Redeemer.
Yeah. Who is that?
Well, as you know, Christians, and including myself, we recognize Christ, the being of Christ.
So that is the Lord of Hosts is a Christ.
He is the Redeemer. Yes.
So you were talking about the Father and Son.
No.
Yes, you just said it. It's my
was
friend.
quoting-
You said the Lord of Hosts is Christ, and you said
I spoke
what you
of
mentioned in
Old
Isaiah
Testament.
is the Father.
I spoke of Old Testament.
Yes.
And in Old Testament, I spoke to you about two entities in one.
No, it doesn't say in one. You brought that up. Where in the Old Testament does it say these two entities are one?
Well, God Himself says that.
No, God says He's one. He doesn't say there are two entities which are one.
No, He says these words. So let me.
Give me the passage so I can
The
look it
passage again goes like this.
up. Which passage is this?
Isaiah 36 verses 6.
Okay.
I, the Lord, the King of Israel, and His Redeemer, the Lord of Hosts, are the first and the last. There's no God besides me.
It doesn't say that in 36:6, unless you're talking about
Some
something.
translations which I know.
Which translation do
I'm
you?
not looking into that.
No. Which translation do you use so I can bring that up?
I'm going for King James, I guess. Let's see.
You prefer King James?
Let's see what happens.
No. If it's acceptable for you, I'll bring that up. So, Isaiah 36:6, King James. No problem. Here it is. Do you want to read it yourself?
Please read. It's your program. Please read. Go for it.
No, you're the one who
I
brought
already
it.
quoted it.
But
Go on.
okay, wait. 36:6. Look, I know you are depending on Egypt,
No, this is not the one.
so you didn't give the right reference then.
Verses 6, I said.
Yeah, that's the one I was reading.
No, you were reading 4.
No, I was reading 6.
This is the book of Isaiah.
Yeah. It's a King James as well.
Look, I don't want to do it. I hate phones to do it with the phone because it shows that intellect takes over the conversation of knowledge.
Well, then memorize it then.
So I just told you I did memorize it.
You memorized the wrong reference.
Okay, so please write down what I just said. I did, and I'll Google it and will come up.
You got a phone, Google it. You're asking me not to use phone and then you're asking me to Google it.
It is. Now we wait.
Embrace the technology, you'll love it.
Did Muhammad embrace technology?
Yes,
But Jesus.
whatever the technology was in his time, he embraced it. Alhamdulillah. Did Jesus ever say not to embrace technology? He's carrying a phone around in his pocket and he's saying,
I'm trying to make.
yeah, is
The point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
That
the two entities are one.
what I'm trying to say here is that the knowledge I'm speaking about is spiritual, and I'm trying to convey to you about the concepts which are free from technology, but you unable to do it. This is the reason why you're relying.
Actually, you're the one unable to remember it.
I quoted it to you.
No, you didn't. You didn't give me the right reference to verify what he said.
Well, let's see if
So
it's correct.
do not juxtapose your mistakes on me. Look, whether you remember it or not, you can paraphrase it and just tell me what the point is, because I think the point you're trying to drive here is you're trying to say that God the Father and God the Son are one being or one entity. But the thing is, nowhere in the Bible does it say that they are one being.
Sorry, 44 verses 6.
Okay, see, you use technology, mashallah. It is helpful after all. No problem. Isaiah 44?
Verses 6.
Okay. So one shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob. Oh, sorry, 6. So thus said the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and besides me there is no God.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's recognize something here. Thus said the Lord. Who is this?
The Lord, the God.
No. When you say the Lord,
He's the God.
okay, so that is one. Okay, that is one God.
He is.
That is one God, right?
Yes.
Good. The King of Israel.
Yes.
That's one God.
Yes.
Thus said the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts.
Yes.
Who is that?
Christ.
Okay, is that God as well?
Yes.
So how many gods have we got now?
Duality is singularity. Yes.
No. How many gods have we got?
Yes. So we have 2. Yes.
Okay, so we have good. Then he says, I am the first. So which one is speaking now?
Both.
No, if it's both, he'll say, we are the first.
No. They both speak. This is what I'm saying.
In English, I am means one entity, not two entities.
That's why it says, and. It's like saying we can agree that together we'll say, let's get along. 1, 2, 3, let's get along. 2 of us can say, let's get along.
Yeah.
It clearly describes to you that there's a duality singularity because it says, I, the King of Israel, yes, and his Redeemer, say these words. It doesn't say that the Redeemer stands next to him. They say it together.
Who is I here? Who is the I? I to me indicates
The Lord
one
and his
entity.
Redeemer, the Lord of
No,
hosts.
I means one entity, not two entities.
That is in a human. This is the whole concept.
That is human language.
It's a human
not an angelic language.
Yes, but we're speaking about the spiritual world. The spiritual world does not operate on the human brain.
Okay, so you're going to disregard your human intellect, which you said earlier
You have
was
to-
quite important,
of course, you have
and
to
now
see-
you want to disregard it
For-
because it doesn't settle well in your worldview because you want to say what he said, the duality.
For anyone.
Let me finish, my friend.
Go
Let me
on.
finish. Okay, because clearly, let me read the passage. Thus said the Lord, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, the Lord of the hosts, I am the first and I am the last, and besides me there is no God. So when he says I am the first and I am the last, and besides me there is no God, it's talking about one entity. So both of them agree. God Almighty, the King of Israel, and the Redeemer both say that God, one entity, is I am the first and I am the last, and besides me there is no God. So when by the way, according to you, when you read this, you believe that the King of Israel is one entity and the Lord of the hosts is another entity. Am I right?
Well,
or are they both the same entity?
Again, one has to be flexible and expand one's own mind and understand that intellect very often stands as a barrier to one comprehend spiritual world.
A barrier?
Yes, a barrier, that's correct.
Okay.
You can use it as a tool, but it also could be an obstacle.